You are listening to the Primitive Intelligence Podcast, episode 619. Are aliens actually extraterrestrials? Interestingly enough, I was having a conversation about this just yesterday, about how aliens, angels, demons, things like that could all be interdimensional beings. And then this morning I wake up and this pops across my newsfeed, a paper from 3 authors, 2 of which are from Harvard University, Tim Lomas and Brendan Case, and then Michael Paul Masters from the Montana Tech of the University of Montana, just recently released a paper titled The Crypto Terrestrial Hypothesis, a case for scientific openness to concealed earthly explanation for unidentified anomalous phenomenon. So that's what we're going to look at today. And I apologize, I'm a day late. I actually lost a day this week. Had a travel day on Monday, which just was absolutely insane. And I thought it was Tuesday yesterday, so I didn't release the episode, so I do apologize. But without any further ado, episode 619 of the Primitive Intelligence Podcast starts now. Before I get into the paper, there's 2 terms I want to talk about so that we have a little bit of an idea of what the concepts are here. The first of which is that word crypto terrestrial in the title of this paper. The term combines the words crypto, meaning hidden or secret, and terrestrial, referring to Earth. So crypto terrestrial literally means hidden or secret civilizations of Earth. The concept suggests that there may exist advanced civilizations or beings that live in seclusion from the rest of humanity, possibly deep within the Earth or in isolated regions not easily accessible or visible to us, like underwater possibly, basically hidden civilizations. And then the second term is ultra-terrestrial. We're going to hear about that a lot in this paper. The term ultra-terrestrial was popularized by writer John Keel. He used the term in his book, The Mothman Prophecies, which was published back in 1975. Keel used ultra-terrestrial to describe beings or entities that exist beyond conventional notions of extraterrestrial and interdimensional beings. These entities were thought to interact with humanity in ways that are not easily understood, possibly existing in realms beyond our usual perception. Now, this could mean interdimensional origin, temporal beings, time travelers. They would have advanced abilities, especially if they're from an alternate dimension. They've been with us for a long time. They could be the basis of cultural icons such as fairies, fae folk, angels. They could be ultra-terrestrial. And then this recent flap or growth of the term UAP, these ultra-terrestrials are thought to maybe be behind these. So, take it or leave it for what it is, but these are the terms that we're looking at. The alien extraterrestrial UAP, UFO phenomenon is getting more complex by the day. And I think, as with any of this stuff that I talk about, it's really good to keep an open mind about this and look at all the different possibilities, because in the end, we really don't know. So on to the paper, the Crypto Terrestrial Hypothesis. I will put a link to a version I found online if you want to go read the whole thing word for word. But I'm just going to touch on some of the points here and we'll see where it goes. So basically the paper looks at UAP, how they might originate from these ultra-terrestrial sources. This expands on a previous work by Lomas, the Journal of Transpersonal Psychology. And I believe that was in 2023 he released that. Now, traditionally, UAP or UFOs have been attributed to either human technology or extraterrestrial technology, or some combination of the two. However, due to the peculiar nature of many UAP, some researchers are considering ultra-terrestrial theories, which suggests that these UAP may involve non-human intelligence already present on Earth. Now, back in 2023, when there was the disclosure, the subcommittee hearing with Grush and Farver and Graves, I mentioned this non-human intelligence quite often. and also talked about the possibility of it being interdimensional. So one of these ultra-terrestrial theories, and one that was previously explored by Lomas, is the interdimensional, like Grush was kind of talking about. And this says basically that UAP may come from beings in other dimensions, or they're time travelers from Earth's future. That paper focuses on another ultra-terrestrial theory, the Crypto Terrestrial. So this current paper focuses on a different type of this ultra-terrestrial theory, the Crypto Terrestrial theory, or CTH. And this basically says that UAP might be activities of these non-human identities concealed here on Earth or within its vicinity, maybe underground or underwater, or possibly even based on the moon or another fairly local planet in our solar system. So what about the UAPs? We'll look at, I'll go over it the way they have it broken down, and they go into what they call the UAP issue. For centuries, people worldwide have observed aerial phenomenon that seemed anomalous. Many sightings are still considered extraordinary, despite advanced technologies and scientific understanding. Now, historically termed UFOs, or unidentified flying objects, this phenomenon is now often referred to by the unidentified aerial phenomenon, or instead of aerial, that's been replaced with anomalous to keep the UAP acronym, but unidentified anonymous phenomenon, because they're not always aerial. Sometimes they're underground. Sometimes they're seen going into the sides of mountains, or transmedium, the term they use, able to fly through air, water, and land with ease. Despite numerous reports, over 200,000 received by the Mutual UFO Network, or MUFON, since 1969, UAPs were not taken seriously by authors. The UAPs weren't taken seriously by authorities until 2017. That was when the footage of 3 military encounters with UAPs were leaked or released online. And this garnered global attention. Everybody's like, this is the Tic Tac, the Go Fast, and I forget what the third one was called, but these particular incidents, they involved trained military observers whose accounts were often corroborated by other sources like radar. The Department of Defense confirmed the footage's authenticity and established the UAP task force, now known as the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, or AARO, AARO. Now, AARO has since published 3 main reports focusing primarily on events since 2019 within U.S. airspace and its waters, identifying over 800 cases. While most were expected to have conventional explanations, around 2 to 5%, roughly 15 to 40 cases were possibly really anomalous, displaying characteristics like high-speed travel or unusual maneuverability. The reports included that these could not be attributed to the U.S. or other nations. And this is something that was heard in that disclosure meeting, that these guys, they're trained. They know what we have. They know what we have coming up, or a good idea of what we have coming up. And some of these things they're seeing are so far beyond what we might even be working on. And it's a little bit scary when you think about that. Like, somebody has this technology, or if it's even technology. Now, critics argue that AARO may be downplaying the issue, continuing a pattern from earlier programs like Project Blue Book, which aimed to minimize the significance of UAPs and UFOs. Notably, Rear Admiral Hillenkotter, the first CIA director, admitted that high-ranking officers were privately concerned about UAPs while publicly dismissing them. And this is nothing new. We've seen this for years and years and years. Recent developments have intensified this debate since June 2023. David Garush, a former National Reconnaissance Officer and National Geospatial Intelligence Agency veteran, publicly claimed that the U.S. government and private aerospace companies had a secret crash retrieval and reverse engineering programs for decades. His claims were deemed credible and urgent by the intelligence community, Inspector General, the ICIG, and supported by notable figures with relevant expertise and clearance. For example, retired Army Colonel Carl Nell and retired Admiral Tim Gallaudet. For example, retired Army Colonel Carl Nell and retired Admiral Tim Gallaudet publicly supported Grush's assertions about non-human intelligences. This was the whole disclosure that happened back in 2023, or the push for disclosure. We haven't actually gotten any information, very little information. The topic of UAPs is now looking like this real scientific mystery. Some people don't really know what to make of it, claiming it's impossible, or that people are seeing things. But there's so many reports, it seems unlikely that everybody is just, misinterpreting these things as stars or planets or something like that. Scholars are exploring various hypotheses, mainly focusing on two classes: conventional terrestrial origins, or human technology, and extraterrestrial origins, advanced civilizations from elsewhere. Now, the latter, while revolutionary, is considered plausible by recent scholarships. Additionally, the proposed Disclosure Act's repeated use of the term non-human intelligence implies other possibilities beyond these two classes. And that's what this paper really looks at. So the first of these is the Crypto Terrestrial Hypothesis, the CTH. This says that non-human intelligences responsible for unidentified aerial phenomenon, UAP, are not extraterrestrial, but instead are native to Earth, hidden in conventional spatial dimensions, potentially underground or underwater. This theory contrasts with interdimensional or extratemporal hypothesis, suggesting that these entities have been present on Earth all along, although they've been concealed. Historically, the likelihood of CHT, the Crypto Terrestrial Hypothesis, was considered extremely low. But recent observations and data have increased its plausibility, leading some researchers to now estimate its probability at around 10%. This shift reflects a growing consideration that CTH as a credible hypothesis. This shift reflects a growing consideration of CTH that's a credible hypothesis and warrants serious investigation. Now, two mysteries that support the CTH. First, UAP. These demonstrate capabilities underwater that parallel their aerial counterparts, such as high-speed travel and maneuverability, and defy current technological and physical understandings. Same thing with the UFOs or UAPs in the air. Now, retired Rear Admiral Tim Gallaudet and other researchers have highlighted accounts of unidentified submersible objects, or USOs, displaying these anomalous behaviors. Notable incidents include a New Zealand frigate followed by a massive USO back in 1987, and sonar images showing objects moving much faster than the fastest submarines, which is pretty important to note. And we just recently started putting underwater drones in the sea, and these things are pretty big, but they still, they're unmanned, so they can perform maneuvers that submarines can't, but they're still not that fast, and they are pretty new. Modern proponents like Mac Tonys and Bernardo Kastrup have revitalized interest in CTH, proposing it as a plausible explanation for UAP phenomenon. Additionally, testimonies and accounts from various sources, including military and intelligence personnel, lend some credence to the hypothesis. For example, claims from Dr. Shirley Wright, who worked with Einstein, and former CIA officer John Ramirez suggested biological correlations between UAP entities and humans, hitting at a potential hidden lineage. This would support like a breakaway civilization or a prior to what we consider modern human civilization that has survived. Now, there is limitations to the historical knowledge that we have, because as far as we know, our civilization goes back so far and there's no records beyond that. But that doesn't mean that there wasn't something beyond that. This talks about the fragility of evidence. Historical understanding is based on surviving evidence, which may be incomplete. Important discoveries like Harappa civilization and Göbekli Tepe challenge conventional timelines and demonstrate how entire civilizations can be lost and then rediscovered, reshaping our understanding of human history. There's new discoveries. Each new archaeological find has the potential to revise or add to our understanding, or even take away from our understanding, suggesting that our current historical knowledge is always subject to change. Not just historical limitations, but geological limitations. The geological timescale. The Earth's history is 4.5 billion years. That's a long, long, long time, making human history just like a little blip. This timeline means that much of Earth's past, including potential intelligence or industrialized species, may be entirely lost to time. And I've talked about this before, that how do we know if something happened today, we lost all our technology, how long would it take for our understanding of what we know now to disappear? If you don't have, I don't know how to build power plants. I don't know how to run a power plant. How many people do? What happens when they're gone? What happens if we got to start over from scratch? A lot of stuff will disappear, and it would not take long for that history, quote unquote, to disappear if there were, few survivors that carried on. You would be more concentrated on survival than continuing our technological civilization. You'd just be trying to survive. You wouldn't care about all this other stuff. So it would disappear quite quickly. With this geological limitation, there's this Silurian hypothesis that proposes the possibility of ancient advanced civilizations that left no discernible trace, likening our current evidence to reconstructing a puzzle with very few pieces. And that's what, and that goes back to what I was just talking about, where if something happened, let's say that, I don't know where they come up with the term Silurian, but let's say Silurian, say they were very advanced, and then something happened, massive cataclysm, their numbers dwindled, they would be more concerned with surviving than trying to continue all this. And over enough time, even like our buildings, everything we have, everything we make, including plastic, at some point will just disappear. And the next civilization comes along and might find small remnants of stuff, and then they have to try to piece that together. That's where you get a lot of these questions of, could this be possible much, much longer ago? And if some of them did survive and kept a little technology, or even if they didn't keep the technology, but they have that head start on modern man, they were here before, then they would be much more advanced. Now, given the limits of our knowledge, we got to remain open to revisiting our understanding in light of new evidence. It's crucial to avoid cognitive biases such as pareidolia, which is seeing patterns where none exist, while also not dismissing anomalous evidence outright. Again, keeping an open mind. There's a lot we don't know. So I mentioned Göbekli Tepe before. This is an 11,000-year-old site in Turkey, possibly the world's first temple, at least the first that we know of, which suggests advanced social structures and monument building far earlier than previously thought. There's things like the Lake Michigan Stonehenge, which is a structure dated to at least 10,000 years old, pushing back the timeline of complex human construction like Göbekli Tepe. And then there's Gunung Padang. This is an archaeological site in West Java, Indonesia. Some dating puts this back like 25,000 years BCE. Those numbers are contested, but if they're right, that really pushes back civilization. Was it human civilization, or was it joint civilization with another race that may still be on Earth or has kind of left but is keeping an eye out? And then there's potential extraterrestrial evidence. The Mars anomalies, NASA photos that suggest possible extraterrestrial artifacts on Mars. I know a lot of people talk about this. It's often dismissed as pareidolia. We don't have a good scale on what the rover is looking at. It's from a camera. These I don't know about. Is it possible? I guess, sure. But to me, it makes more sense that we're just seeing what we want to see in rocks. If you've ever been somewhere like Arizona in a desert and you see rocks at a distance, I mean, I was at the Grand Canyon. I thought I saw a deer pop up over a hill before I realized that hill was about 15 miles away, and it was just the way the rocks were shaped. A deer would have been a speck on that hill because it was down in the canyon. So it's really easy to have happen in person. Yeah, obviously on photos too. Don't want to dismiss it completely, but I think things like that, you got to take it with a bit more, a bigger grain of salt, I would say. And as we explore space, new evidence might challenge our assumptions about other planets and the possibility of ancient civilizations. I like the ancient civilization idea and like the interdimensional idea of alien existence or extraterrestrial, what we consider alien or extraterrestrial or non-human, more than alien visitation from other planets just directly. Could that happen? Do I believe in extraterrestrial life? Yes, I believe there's more than just us in the universe. But are they coming here not without some kind of super advanced technology, which could be possible? But I think it would have to be interdimensional, even if they are coming from within our universe. At least that's my look at it. So there's been traces of underground civilizations that they look at in this paper. The concept of underground civilization is not as far-fetched as it might seem. There are historical examples, such as Derinkuyu in Turkey. I'm absolutely positive I'm mispronouncing these, and I apologize. It's an ancient multi-level underground city near the modern town of Derinkuyu. It extends to a depth of approximately 280 feet and is large enough to have sheltered as many as 20,000 people, together with their livestock and food stores. This is the largest excavated underground city in Turkey and is one of several underground complexes found throughout the area. And then when you look at that compared to like our modern military bases like Cheyenne Mountain, they're built for protection against extreme threats. So is this what they did? Was there a massive underground complex of an ancient civilization that they built underground? Now, we do have evidence of, especially out in the Southwest, of tribes that built their homes into the sides of cliffs, and then they would use ladders to keep them safe. So it's not an unfamiliar concept, even to early humans. The Earth's internal structure, including a recently discovered mantle transition zone reservoir, which is kind of what it sounds like. It's with these large reservoirs of water locked within the stone mantle of the planet that don't come up to the ground level. So there's water in the earth that we don't have access to, not easily anyway. Hell, and this is not our water table, like our normal understanding of how water works on the planet. Now, depending on where you land on the idea of evolution, that adaptation over time could enable another hominid species or a branch of Homo sapiens to live underground. This aligns with cryptozoology, which studies species hypothesized throughout indirect evidence. When you look at things like Bigfoot and talked about many of these other like hominid species, similar to humans, not quite exactly the same, are they a parallel evolution on the planet? So they also look at this from the skeptical side as well. Counter arguments to Sasquatch. So they also not just looking at this is what is. They do some skeptical research in this as well. Counter arguments to Sasquatch's existence highlighted its expected social and curious nature, which would likely result in more frequent sightings, right? So why don't we see more of Bigfoot? Why don't we see the bones of Bigfoot? Why is it so elusive? So skeptical views extend to other cryptozoological. Skeptical views extend to other cryptozoological findings as well, such as the Chilean Atacama skeleton and mummified bodies in Peru, which often have more prosaic explanations. Now, the mummified bodies in Peru got kind of a bad rap last year and recently with the Mexican mummies, alien mummies from the Mexican congressional hearing last year, which all turned out to be fake. Surprise, surprise. But it really, it put a spotlight on that. And I think people just now dismiss all of that, which, to be fair, might be wise, but you should always keep an open mind as well. Just because one thing that came from the region was fake doesn't mean that everything there is faked. Now, many cultures have myths about subterranean realms, such as Patalia in Hinduism and Buddhism, or Shambhala in Tibetan Buddhism, which have inspired exploratory quests. Mount Shasta in California is a notable site linked to the myth of Lemuria, with ongoing reports of unusual activity, mysterious disappearances, and UAP sightings, suggesting a potential underground or hidden presence. Now, again, it's these places like these significant geological features, mountains, seas, lakes, rivers, cave systems, where a lot of this stuff comes from. Some paleontologists have theorized that certain dinosaur species, if they had survived extinction, could have evolved into intelligent upright beings similar to dinosauroid. That lends credence to reptilian races, such as the Nagas, and to the speculation about intelligent cryptozoological species thriving underground. I mean, I touched on this, I think, last season. Could dinosaurs have gotten smart enough to leave the planet? It was kind of a fun look at it, but is it possible that there were bipedal dinosaurs? We know that. We've seen their fossil records. Could they have downsized, and changed, evolved enough to have survived till today and just got really good at hiding? Because it's possible. The notion of crypto terrestrials, intelligent species hiding a living, the notion of crypto terrestrials is tied to UAP theories, with some suggesting these beings may disguise themselves among humans or reside on Earth in secret. John Ramirez, for example, claims some non-human intelligences are living among humans disguised as regular people, and points to symbolic representations like lizards in the intelligence community logos as evidence. You see this a lot. People get wrapped up in this. There are some celebrities that take that notion and intentionally plant it into their brand just to draw people in to think that there's something or not. So you got to be really careful with that kind of stuff too. Now, they also get into this magical crypto-terrestrials theory. And this, even to their credit, they even say this one might be a bit out there for some people, but they touch on it anyway. So unconventional explanations for the UAP phenomenon. Some ideas about UAP and hidden beings fit within traditional scientific paradigms. Others challenge conventional explanations, prompting theories of interdimensional beings, future human time travelers, and ethereal non-human intelligences. These theories include sacroterrestrials or ether terrestrials, which align with cultural concepts like angels. There's also fairies. They represent a class of beings overlapping with crypto-terrestrial ideas. Reverend Robert Kirk's 1691 book, The Secret Commonwealth of Elves, Fauns, and Fairies, documents fairy lore, describing a subterranean civilization with ethereal abilities and human abductions. Arthur C. Clarke's Third Law suggests advanced technology might be indistinguishable from magic, indicating pre-modern magical interpretations of advanced tech could be plausible. Now, when you look at the similarities between alien abductions, fae folk encounters, and some stories that revolve around angels and devils and demons, there's a lot of overlap in those stories. Not exact, but enough of an overlap where they do seem like they may all come from a very similar place. Philosophers like David Bentley Hart argue against dismissing the possibility of fairies and similar beings, suggesting our disbelief stems from metaphysical prejudices rather than empirical evidence. Classical theism, as Hart suggests, might imply the existence of such beings, like I just said. Now, finding fairies is challenging, right? Obviously, but not impossible, as such encounters are rare. Icelandic and Irish folklore still acknowledge the existence of elves and fairies. Accounts of supernatural encounters, like Rubens' Second Sight or contemporary UAP narratives, resonate with traditional fairy lore. I was lucky enough to have been able to visit Ireland twice when I was younger, and I don't remember where it was exactly. We're just driving around the country. We're just exploring places, and we got out of the car to stretch our legs and did a short hike into this really cool looking forest. And we walked in, and there was just this little tiny circle of stones that look like some very small people had been there. Now, did somebody go in there and set that up and have a little fire? Maybe. But was it an actual fairy ring? Maybe. I did experience it. I did see it. I'll have to look and see. I've got photos from back then. I have to go through like a photo book and see if I can find a picture of that. But yeah, I mean, that was pretty cool. Then they look into some of the crypto terrestrial theories, such as the UAP phenomenon, including the underwater and underground sightings, hinting at potential bases for these NHIs, hidden bases for these NHIs. Examples of that are like the Dulce base and underwater bases like the one suggested off the California coast. Now, the Dulce base was involved in a massive amount of disinformation and mysterious deaths, according to what came out. Although some people say that's evidence that it's not real, but people say, look for some grains of truth in these stories. Theories also explore the moon as a possible location for these NHI bases, the non-human intelligence bases, supported, they say, by photographic evidence and astronaut testimonies. I guess you got to look at those and draw your own conclusions. So underwater non-human intelligences are plausible due to the unexplored vastness of the oceans. Now imagine this, the planet is 70% water, and we've explored about 5% of that water. So there's a lot of room underwater on this planet that we have not, well, supposedly not explored. Now, discoveries like the mysterious golden orb in the Gulf of Alaska highlight our ignorance of oceanic depths. The golden orb of Alaska, this golden orb, this was back in August 30th of 2023. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA, their ship Okeanos Explorer, discovered this mysterious golden-like orb object on the floor of the Gulf of Alaska. It was about 4 inches in diameter, dome-shaped, golden in color when underwater, but matte brown and flaky when on the surface. It was attached to a rock in an underwater field of white sponges at a depth of about 2 miles. It has a hole at its base, and it feels like skin. I'll put a link to the Google results I found on this, and you can look into this if you want to. There's a picture of it there. That's creepy looking. I don't know what that thing is. But we don't know much about the ocean floor, so it could be something perfectly normal, but we just don't know. Now, the moon, so if we go away from the oceans, that's 70% of the planet that we've only explored 5% of, and we look at the moon, especially its far side, is a prime candidate for non-human intelligent bases due to its peculiar characteristics and potential evidence from NASA missions. Again, the potential evidence from NASA missions, I guess it's all on how you interpret that. The peculiar characteristics, though, are the fact that we never see that backside of the moon. It's tidally locked to the planet. So that side is always facing away from us. Be a perfect place to hide. Although we have been around the moon, and we do have satellites on that side of the moon, so we can see it from satellite evidence. And I believe China just landed a probe on the moon that's collecting samples and it's going to be returned. I don't know if it hasn't landed yet, it's going to soon. So it's not completely unexplored. And could we just land in places where we know there's nothing else? Sure. But it's interesting. It is a good spot for it. And since, the average person can't go up there and take a look around, it would be a good spot to be. And if, like a lot of the alien encounter, UFO crashes, Roswell, things like that, those stories are even remotely accurate, then a lot of those say that there's agreements between the governments of the planet and these extraterrestrial races where, okay, they stay out of our way, we stay out of theirs for the most part. But they might want to collect some people every now and then. I guess I'm not real fond of that idea, but I guess, that you got to take that for what it is. So that's a look at this recently released paper, the Crypto Terrestrial Hypothesis, a case for scientific openness to concealed earthly explanation for unidentified anomalous phenomenon by Lomas, Case, and Masters. links down in the show notes below if you want to read through it completely. It's not terribly long, but there is a lot of information in there. And, draw your own conclusions to that. A lot of interesting information in there, and, lots to make you think. What do you guys think about that? What do you think the origins of alien and UAP encounters are? Now, like I said, I believe there's extraterrestrial life in our universe. I'm not entirely convinced that they have at least directly been coming here. Maybe they have. I'm not going to rule that out, but I'm not entirely convinced. I think that there's a very good possibility that extraterrestrial, which I don't consider paranormal because we exist and we're not necessarily paranormal. Why couldn't other life exist? But when you look at UFOs and UAP, I think there's a high likelihood that some of that is, at least some of it, is our technology that we're just not willing to discuss, and maybe not the United States, but human technology, or it's something else, right? I've talked about how is it all connected? Is the greater phenomenon all connected somehow? And that's what we're seeing. And it just gets interpreted, or it presents itself as things like UFOs sometimes, and ghosts other times, and skinwalkers sometimes, and Bigfoot sometimes, depending on the person and what they're expecting to encounter. Or because we know that the physical universe will react to our observing it. So is it just, that's how this works. When we observe something, we see it the way we think we're going to see it. And if you're very religious, you're going to see it as angels and devils. And if you're not religious, you might see it as aliens. And if you're really into the Bigfoot and cryptozoology, you might see it as, a Bigfoot or a dogman or whatever. Not saying that's the case. I'm not trying to take away from anyone's point of view. And I'm just saying, is that a possibility? And what then is the phenomenon? Is it something natural in our reality, or is it interdimensional? And because it's interdimensional, we may not be able to comprehend what is happening in another dimension, depending on if it's like just another reality or if it's a completely different set of physics. Like, we wouldn't be able to understand that. So when it comes through, if it's capable of coming through to our reality, our dimension, it can't show itself as it is in its reality or its dimension, because its physics are different. So how does it present itself? Maybe it doesn't even know how to present itself. Maybe it doesn't even know it is presenting itself to us. Will we get those answers? I don't know. That's my thought on it. What's yours? What do you think is going on? Do you think these are all related? Do you think that it's extraterrestrial or interdimensional or ultra-terrestrial or breakaway civilization or hallucinations? Whatever you think it is, you can contact me at podcast@primitiveintelligence.com. Let me know. If you're watching this on YouTube or Rumble, you can leave a message in the comments. And on Spotify, there's the option to leave a voice message. You can do that as well. Love hearing from you guys. Hope you enjoyed this episode. Again, I apologize for it being a day late. Completely lost a day here this week. That's going to do it for me for this one. Enjoy the rest of your week. See ya.